Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Spotlight Series presentation. Today we're highlighting computer science, and we have with us today Professor Nenad Neno Medvidović, who is going to give us a lot of insight about the computer science department and our master's program. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So just a couple of quick notes. For those of you that are joining us during this live presentation, I will be sending out a follow-up email within a couple of business days that will have a link to the slides. So no need to jot down all the links in this. You need them right away. And then throughout the session, if you think of any questions, feel free to use the Q&A panel to the right of the session. There will be a Q&A session, so we will hold off on those questions till the end. But I also have with us here today Marilyn Lau, who will also be assisting with any more personalized questions that may come up during the session as well. So for today's program, I will start out by just giving a brief introduction of USC Viterbi School of Engineering for those of you that have not joined us for prior sessions. And then we'll jump right into some frequently asked questions and talking about the master's programs in computer science and lots of really cool, exciting things that are happening within the computer science department that we'll hear from. And I'll also talk about Dena Viterbi, which is our online delivery method. And then at the end of the session, again, we'll have time to talk and ask questions of Professor Medvidović and as well as me. And so if you have any questions, again, feel free to use the Q&A panel, but we'll definitely get to those during the session. So just an overview of the University of Southern California. Again, if you haven't joined us for a prior session, we are the oldest private university in the Western United States. So we're actually founded way back in 1880. Currently, we have over 49,000 students, getting closer to that 50,000 points with over 28,000 graduate students. Our full-time faculty members are over 4,700, which doesn't include many of the adjunct faculty members that come from a variety of different industries and really bring their expertise to the field in the classroom. And we have a very diverse student population. So USC's campus looks very different than it looked many years ago, but we are proud to say that we have students representing all different backgrounds and locations throughout the world, all 50 states, of course, and numerous countries, well over 100 different countries represented at any given point. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Los Angeles area, we are located in Southern California, as our school name entails, but we are about a 10 to 15-minute drive from the downtown Los Angeles area. Of course, everything always depends on traffic around here, but whether you're interested in internships or job opportunities to entertainment, the arts, you name it, Los Angeles is the place for that. But of course, USC is very well known to have connections throughout the world. So we're definitely not limited to just opportunities in the surrounding areas. So in terms of the Viterbi School of Engineering, we are one of the oldest and largest academic schools within the larger USC campus. We are comprised of 8 academic departments, our computer science department being one of the major academic departments, and we'll hear more about that today. We have 189 tenure track faculty members. We have 35 National Academy of Engineering members, which is one of the greatest honors that you can receive as a faculty member. We have over 90 National Science Foundation Career National Presidential Young Investigator awardees. And then in terms of our student population within the Viterbi School, we have over 6,300 graduate students. So as you can see there, it's essentially over doubled that of our undergraduate student population. So our master's students, both online on campus, grad certificate students, and PhD students are a huge part of the Viterbi School campus and culture. In terms of research, so lots of different exciting research that's going on at any given point, including within the computer science department. We have over 35 research centers within the Viterbi School. And so if you're interested in hearing more about the research, then we'll definitely hear about that today. And but we also can find out more about those research centers on our Viterbi School website as well. But I'm very happy to introduce you all today to Professor Nenad Neno, as he calls himself, Medvidović. And he is our department chair of computer science. He's the director of the emeritus of the Center for Systems and Software Engineering. He earned a master's and PhD from the Department of Information and Computer Science at UC Irvine. Go Anteaters. He's also has a Bachelor of Science, Computer Science from Arizona State University. He's also an IEEE Fellow, an ACM Distinguished Scientist, IBM Real-Time Innovation Awardee, a USC Mellon Mentoring Awardee, as well as OCEC Distinguished Engineering Merit Award, amongst many other awards. So thank you so much again, for joining us today. And I'm going to start out by asking some just basic questions. So can you provide more information about the Department of Computer Science at USC Viterbi?
Sure. So we are a very large department. We have over 40 tenure track faculty. We have, as you will see, a large number of research faculty, which makes us an atypical department. These are people who are not hired to teach classes necessarily, although many of them do, but they're really expected to do research full-time. And then we have a number of teaching faculty who primarily teach classes. Altogether, over 90 full-time faculty. We are quite diverse, both in terms of where we come from, just like our students, we come from all over the world. And also in terms of the kind of work that we do, as well as in terms of the career points that we're at. So, for example, in this slide here, you see that last year we hired 7 new tenure track faculty. So these are people who do research, advise graduate students, and also do a fair bit of teaching. And there are a couple of other people we hired who are research faculty, and one person who is a teaching faculty member, and I'll show those on some upcoming slides. We have a very large number of students, over 5,000 students, which is a huge department. Actually, we're bigger than some universities you may have heard of. So in terms of the number of students, we're larger than Caltech, which is a world famous technical institute right here in Southern California. So CS is quite a juggernaut, and you will become a part of a not only large but also very vibrant and distinguished set of or cohort of brilliant young people. As researchers at a top-notch institution, we're also expected to get funding for the various activities and initiatives that we engage in. So, for example, our one of the recent things that is called out on this diagram, on this slide, our world leading games program recently got a $3 million donation to help with attracting underrepresented groups into computing, and specifically computing as it applies to computer games. So I could probably spend much of the rest of the afternoon, well, afternoon here in Southern California, maybe not where you're listening from, telling you about all the various kinds of things that are happening in the department. At the moment, I will highlight only a few of them, but we're especially proud of this $3 million donation because the idea here is to try to attract into the discipline, into the field, the kinds of underrepresented populations that USC at large, so not just the computer science department, but USC at large has been quite effective at trying to open its doors to. So if you can maybe go to the next slide. Basically, this gives you just a very brief taste of the kinds of things that are happening in the department. So one of our faculty who was my predecessor as department chair recently won a $1.2 million award grant to help medical professionals, so specifically doctors from our Keck Medical School, figure out how they can analyze their wearable data, so and their patients as well. So in other words, if you instrument a patient with various kinds of devices, and if you think like, well, that sounds really intrusive, don't worry about it. You're already instrumented with your smart watches and cell phones and whatnot, so a lot of data is actually being collected about you. So the question is, how do you use that data to try to figure out certain things about somebody's medical condition? Of course, another set of issues that is relevant in this kind of setting is how do you do that in a way that protects your anonymity and protects your confidentiality and privacy and so on. Another one of our faculty, Bharath Raghavan, who you will see on one of the charts in a minute because he's one of the associate chairs in the department. He has been applying his research in the area of computer networks to agriculture. It's very exciting stuff. And you might think, what does computer science and computer networks, what do they have to do with agriculture? It turns out quite a bit, because what you're dealing with in the context of agriculture is these large open environments where many things can happen at any point in time. So these are huge decentralized biological systems, but they're really, in some ways, they go beyond just being biological systems because there are societal implications and that there's a lot of technology that's being involved and whatnot. So Bharath has been working on those kinds of problems. Laurent Itti, who is another one of the associate chairs in the department, is working on figuring out how to bridge the brain-computer interfaces. Bistra Dilkina is one of the area leads in the department. Her research has been focusing on trying to help people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and so on. We could talk about this for quite a while. It's a large department. Everybody's doing one or more really interesting projects, and many of those you'll actually get a chance to participate in one way or another. Another thing that's really exciting to us is the little building that you can see up in the upper right-hand corner. So I've been at USC and in the computer science department for 25 years, and I'm thrilled that after 25 years, so in other words, if you wait long enough, it'll happen, we'll have a state-of-the-art facility. It's a 7-story building that is going to have 2 stories underground, 5 above ground, and this is going to be the new home for the computer science department. I probably am not exaggerating when I say that it's going to be the most beautiful building on campus. And honestly, one of the more beautiful university buildings that I've seen in my life. And I'm very excited and tremendously honored to have been able to participate in the discussions about how to lay out the building, how to pick out the various things, ranging from the color schemes to office furniture and so forth. It's been a very educational and very exciting project. If you look at one of the various statistics of the department, we are, as the kids would say nowadays, and that's what my kids say all the time because they're young adults. So now, they're referring to the kids even younger than them. As the kids would say nowadays, we're crushing it. That's the local American vernacular for we're doing really well. We have a top-ranked games program in the world, probably. We are the number 8, ranked institution in the world based on publications and research output. If you remove research institutes and industrial research labs, we're number 5 in the world, in fact, in terms of research publications. Our online master's program has perennially been one of the top programs in the world. It's currently ranked top 5 and so on. Again, a lot of these things you probably have been able to find on your own just by Googling USC. If we go to the next slide. So this is how things break down in terms of master's students in our 2 large programs. The CS department at USC oversees 2 different programs. One of them is the computer science master's program, and the other one is the data science master's program. Both of them are very popular. The data science program is significantly younger because data science as a discipline has emerged relatively recently, but it's become really hotly sought after. In fact, even though it's only anecdotal, my own son, who got an undergraduate degree in computer science, is now one of the data science master students here at USC. We have nearly 2,500 master students in CS, and we're pushing 700 in data science. So the numbers are pretty large. That's very exciting, obviously, because it gives you many different options to choose among these various specialties or specializations. And it's also very exciting because our track record of placing our graduates into jobs has been pretty spectacular, and you'll see some data on that as well. So I think we're all justifiably proud, but at the same time, we also have to make sure that the kind of experience that you get in the program is going to be an outstanding one, and also a pleasant one above all, because you look at these numbers, you might get a little bit leery of the fact that you're going to be one of 3,000 plus people. Well, on the one hand, that's true. The numbers are what they are. On the other hand, every single student matters to us, and every single one of you will get the kind of attention and guidance that is required for you to succeed once you arrive at USC and once you're making your way through your degree. We can go to the next slide. So, as I said, we have three different or distinct faculty bodies that are part of the 91 people who are full-time faculty at USC. We have tenure and tenure track faculty here. In fact, I think when this chart was put together, all four of these young faces were assistant professors, so pre-tenure, but the two on the right, Zhang Ren and Chao Deschmuck, have actually been tenured within the last few weeks, so they've become associate professors with tenure. And on the left, we have Swayamdipta and Heather Culbertson, who are assistant professors of computer science. All of them are doing research in different areas. So for example, Swaba in the upper left is doing research in natural language processing, whereas let's say Joe in the lower right is doing research in cyber physical systems. So think of things like self-driving cars. Heather, for example, is doing research in haptics. In other words, a field of robotics that relies on taking advantage of touch and sensors that are dependent on human touch. So think of it like a smart glove, for example, and so on. In the middle, we have four faculty who are on our teaching track. So these are full-time teaching faculty. They again teach a whole range of classes, from introductory programming classes to advanced machine learning and deep learning classes, and computer games classes and so forth. And then on the right, we have four faculty who are on our research track. As I mentioned, we have over 30 faculty who are on our research track. They do research full-time. And they primarily reside at two of our institutes in Marina del Rey, so on the western side of LA. The Institute of Creative Technologies and Information Sciences Institute. The Information Sciences Institute is older. It recently celebrated its 50th birthday, but both of those have been incredibly successful in their own kind of subfields of computing. If you go to the next slide, as I mentioned, we have been hiring aggressively. Computing as a field has been growing tremendously, and that's also reflected in our growing student numbers. So last year alone, I believe that we hired 9 or 10, I think 10 faculty altogether, 7 on the tenure track. So the three faces, leftmost faces on this diagram or on this slide are on the tenure track. Marco Papa is a full-time teaching faculty. And if we go to the next slide, all four of these people are on the tenure track. So Oded is in computer graphics. Swab, I already mentioned, in natural language processing. Wei Hong is a faculty member in software engineering, which is also my own research area. And Dani Yogatama is at the intersection, working at the intersection of natural language processing and robotics. And then if we go to the next slide, I guess we did not show all of them. There were several other people who we hired last year. This is the department's leadership team. I've been chair since last July. Before that, I was the vice chair for tenure track affairs. It was kind of a grooming position for me to take over as chair, as it turned out, even though that wasn't the original plan. I have 3 associate chairs for various parts of the program. We do have an associate chair specifically targeting or tasked with various aspects of our master's programs, and that's Bharath Raghavan. You'll remember that name, perhaps. He's the gentleman whose work on computer networks is trying to aid people who are dealing with basically trying to improve our agricultural practices. So he's doing some cutting edge research while also having this important administrative duty. If we go to the next slide, the department is broken into 4 groupings in terms of kind of sibling areas of research. So Bistro Dilkina is the area lead for artificial intelligence, machine learning, security and privacy. Chao Wang is the area lead for systems, databases, software engineering, and cyber-physical systems. David Kempe is the area lead for theory and computation. And Jernay Barbic is area lead for vision, robotics, graphics, and human-computer interaction. And each one of those areas has a number of tenured and tenure-track faculty, as well as research faculty that are part of it. And then teaching faculty tend to span multiple areas because they end up teaching classes across kind of the entire curriculum, although you'll also find people on the tenure track, for example, who do research in more than one area quite commonly. In terms of our news highlights, there's a bunch of stuff that we could report on. One of the things that you may have heard about recently over the last several months is ChatGPT. Well, it turns out that some of the key contributions that led to ChatGPT happened at USC, and we're very proud of that. We're only hoping that ChatGPT doesn't like replace all of us and do our jobs better than we can someday, and that won't happen. In fact, you're in a fantastic position to make a real difference and a real change, and I think your USC education will help you with that. So any fears that ChatGPT will supplant humans are wildly overstated and borderline unfounded. And when you come to USC, you'll hear about that in your classes and at your orientation and so on, but you can always pop into my office and I'm happy to tell you why what you're doing will never be replaced by automated AI bots like ChatGPT. If we go to the next one, we've had people who are working with underwater robotics or underwater robots and drones who are trying to locate toxic algae in lakes. Before this, actually, I was just recently talking to the faculty member who's in charge of this research, who had applied this research actually to looking at cases of fish dying en masse from the lack of oxygen in certain regions of the ocean. It happened actually a few years ago here in Southern California in Redondo Beach, and his underwater robots were able to help scientists figure out exactly how that phenomenon occurred. In other words, what was the cascading set of events that contributed to that? So it's very cool research that has important real-world applications. If we go to the next one, this is an example of actually one of many examples of our engineering students, or our computer science students in particular, working on healthcare related or medicine related types of topics. We have a number of vibrant collaborations with the Keck School of Medicine, for example, and also with other departments at the university, such as the Department for Quantitative and Computational Biology, let's say. So if we go to the next one, this is an example of a master's student who actually developed a device that stops plastic debris from polluting the oceans. This is a CS student who was able to apply his knowledge to develop this very cool, in fact, award-winning solution to oceanic pollution. If we go to the next one, you will see many such statements, such as what Jaya here says about both the kinds of social connections that you will build. You'll build this gigantic network of people that are going to be Trojans, just like you are. And you can read Jaya's statement, but I can also tell you that last week I reconnected with a student who got his master's at USC in 2002. So that was 21 years ago. He took one of the classes with me. We met over coffee at University Village. He works and has worked for quite a few years at Accenture. He still to this day considers himself a Trojan. And he was explaining to me how his own children who've never been at USC because they're too young how they watch USC football games on TV and have USC jerseys and whatnot. So that is the kind of school spirit that is quite common here at USC that I have not seen in other schools, including the schools where I got my own degrees. There's no sense of belonging that you walk away with like you do here at USC. We go to the next one. So there are a number of master's programs that are still available in computer science. We're trying to streamline some of those, but that will not affect you because that hasn't happened yet. Here are the programs, the ones that have a little computer monitor next to them. These are fully online. So you can get your master's degree by attending DEN classes. Of course, with COVID, everything was online for a couple of semesters. And to be quite honest with you, neither the students nor the faculty could wait to get back in person because, initially it seemed like, oh, that's cool. We can do everything from, our bedrooms and living rooms. And then we started craving human contact. So we're fully back in person. And it's been working wonderfully. I think people are really excited to see human faces live. We have master's programs in AI, software engineering, robotics, multimedia and creative technologies, data science. So there's a data science program at USC that has those close to 700 students, but then there's also a master's program in computer science with a focus on data science. And the two are somewhat similar, but they're actually not the same. So you can look up the course offerings for the CS in data science program. And that one is actually quite popular. So if you go to the next slide, one of the questions that comes up quite a bit is what's the difference between just a general MS in computer science and MS in computer science for scientists and engineers. And the MS in computer science right now is a 28-unit program. So in each class is 4 units, so that's 7 classes. And the one required class is 570, which is analysis of algorithms, CSCI 570, and then you have to pick 6 additional classes to complete your degree. On the other hand, the MS in computer science for scientists and engineers is a different degree because it's there for people who actually are highly trained in their discipline, but they don't have a computing background. And this is why their background has to be supplemented with more basic computer science courses before they can take the standard MS in computer science kinds of classes. So if we go to the next slide, that gives a few parameters of this program. There's a total of 37 required units. To complete this degree, one has to take about 12 units, I guess it's not about, but it's exactly 12 units of preparatory kinds of classes that are at the 400 level. So these are senior level undergraduate classes. And then they end up having to take CS 570, just like any other CS master student. And then 21 to 22 units of graduate level coursework from the CSCI buffet of classes. There are actually quite a few 500 level and 600 level classes that are offered to our grad students. Typically, master students take 500 level classes, but occasionally I've seen petitions come my way for a student who would like to take a more advanced class in one of the sub-disciplines of computer science. So as somebody who may have a background in particle physics, for example, who wants to get a master's degree in computer science, there is some additional coursework you would have to go through. Of course, it's entirely possible that you have that coursework from elsewhere, but those are rare cases. Typically, we see students who take all of these classes. So the next slide, can you pursue CS online? And then at some point, somebody's going to have to tell me where I'm supposed to stop talking and somebody else jumps in.
Yeah, I can jump right in there. So thank you so much, Neno. That was so much really cool fascinating information that you shared. I learned so much myself, so thank you so much for that. I can now talk about, our online offerings. As Nina already mentioned, we have a number of programs that are available completely online via what's called our Viterbi delivery method. So that includes the General Master of Science in Computer Science program, computer security, data science, software engineering, and again, scientists and engineers. And then we also have the graduate certificate in software architecture. So, in terms of delivery methods, essentially you can pursue your program. All the programs, of course, are offered on campus. The large majority of on-campus students tend to be full-time, but it's not necessarily required to do that. It also, of course, just depends on, your ultimate goals in terms of how soon you want to complete your program. But typically, on-campus students, oftentimes that are going full-time, take anywhere from 2 to 3 courses. A large majority of the computer science courses are 4 units, so just something to keep in mind when deciding how many courses to take. And they usually graduate about 1.5 to 2 years. If they're at the 1.5 year point, though, typically that means that you are taking courses some courses in the summer, which is considered optional. But some people, if you want to complete in a very short amount of time, then that summer can actually help out. And in terms of online delivery, so the large majority of our online Viterbi students are working full-time professionals. And so they generally take, 1 or 2 courses per semester, but it's flexible. You don't have to be a working professional in order to be a Viterbi student. So we do have some, students that are just in a different location and want to go full-time, and that's possible too. So it's really flexible. On average, our Viterbi students are graduating about 2.5 to 3 years. But ultimately, everyone has at least 5 years to complete their degree program. And you can even petition for additional 2 years. So that's a possibility as well. So 7 years is the max possibility there. So in terms of how Viterbi works, we know, especially during the pandemic, everyone was online, so there's lots of different options out there. But the Viterbi School of Engineering's delivery method is really special. It's its own proprietary web-based delivery system. We've actually been in the distance education arena over 50 years ago. We started way back in 1972, before there was, the World Wide Web, and just in early 2000s, we had just a handful of programs that were offered online, and now we have actually over 40 different programs that are available completely online. And so the way that it works is that our Viterbi students are in the same exact classes as the on-campus students. There's no difference in terms of the coursework, the exams, the faculty members, etc. So you're, again, same classes, same program as the on-campus students. You can watch the lectures live as they're happening on USC's campus. Nice thing about that, of course, is to be able to call in during the live lectures. You can chat your questions as well. And that way you have your answers right on the spot and keep up to speed with all the lectures. You don't want to wait too long to watch those lectures, but you do also have the option to come to watch the lectures on your own time via the course recordings. So any Viterbi courses, any courses that are offered online have the ability, essentially the live lectures are recorded by a team. We have an entire Viterbi network control team that records those lectures, and then they go into the course recordings archive that you can then watch it from that point until the end of the semester when they're no longer available. But it's a great studying tool as well. You can stream it as many times as you need to throughout the semester. And then finally, although it's not required at all to step foot on USC's campus as an online student, you can also come to campus. So of course, yes, as Neno mentioned, it's great to be able to be face to face and in person if possible. And so if you ever, are visiting the area, or you're not too far but just want to come from time to time, you are welcome to come in and sit in the classroom, meet your faculty members, fellow students, enjoy all of the perks of being a USC student, whether it's events or coming to football games or whatever you want, career resources, lots of different opportunities. And Viterbi online students have those same opportunities as on-campus students. And so in terms of the way that it works, online versus on campus. I'll talk about that next. But we do get a lot of questions about exams. So if you are in a class where the exams are required to be proctored and in-person proctored, then you would take your exams at a proctored test center. That can vary depending on your location. Could be a local library, community college, a corporate proctor. So if you work for a company and you have somebody that can proctor examinations, that's possible. Otherwise, those that are located in the Los Angeles, Orange, or Ventura counties would take their exams on USC's campus if that's a requirement for that particular examination. And we do have a dedicated Neno Viterbi exams coordinator that can help assist if you ever, say, for example, have to required to travel for work. She can also assist in helping to find a location as long as you give her at least 2 weeks notice to help find a location so that you're taking exams as close as time is taking place on USC's campus. So just to give a side-by-side comparison, I did see that some of you are interested or undecided between your delivery methods. So I just wanted to kind of give you some differences here. So program admission application required materials are actually exactly the same. There's no difference because you're applying to a degree program, not a delivery method, though you would indicate whether or not you're planning to pursue a program online or not. The weekly course lectures, the assignments exam, again, same exact content there, but it would just depend on where you're located in terms of where you take your exams. And then for on-campus students, if you're wondering if you ever can watch the recordings as well, that would be possible, but it does need to be a situation where you're enrolled in a course with Neno Viterbi students in it. So if you require those recordings and you absolutely need those recordings, then you may want to consider pursuing a program as a Neno Viterbi student, because that would ensure that if you enrolled in a course that's offered online, that you would have access to those recordings. The courses per semester, I talked about that already. Degree completion requirements are exactly the same. So 27 to 37 units with a 3.0 GPA or above. And there's really no distinction whether you're on campus or an online student, no distinction whatsoever. You earn the same exact degree. So just some additional information. So for Neno Viterbi students that want to, from time to time, there may be interest in, getting a jump start and taking classes before formally applying for admission. So for example, if you are looking to get started as early as this coming summer, which is just around the corner, starts as early as May, you can potentially do that via the limited status enrollment option. So essentially, this option does require that you have an undergraduate degree in engineering, math, hard science, or a related field, including, of course, computer science, with a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. And it's limited in the sense that there's a maximum of 12 units you can take, and also, too, it does not guarantee that you'll be formally admitted. So while limited status is a way to get a jump start on taking courses prior to enrolling as applying for formal admission or to just take individual courses, just note that it does not guarantee that you'll be formally admitted, and you still have to apply for formal admission separately. But if you wanted to get a jump start in taking courses as early as this summer, you would just complete what's called the Neno Viterbi profile, which essentially is a pretty quick process. You would just need to complete that, and then you would receive a notification as to whether or not you're approved to take courses as early as this summer, within typically 3 to 5 business days. If you are an on-campus student that's interested in enrolling as a limited status student, that is a possibility as well. You would just request it through your department advisor, if that's of interest. And then employer reimbursement deferment is something that many of our Neno Viterbi students also take advantage of. Essentially, it is for any students, really. It doesn't have to be Neno Viterbi, but students whose companies can will reimburse them for their tuition after the semester rather than having to pay upfront out of pocket, which we recognize can be a lot. You can defer your upfront payment of up to 90% of your tuition until the end of the term. So in order to be eligible, though, you do have to do this each semester that you want to defer, and your employer needs to reimburse you for tuition, and your student account needs to be current. And then you can see the additional requirements there, and the link there is also there as well. And for those of you that join us a little bit later in the session, just as a note, I will be sending a follow-up email within a couple business days that will have a link to all of this information. I also wanted to take the time to I know it mentioned on some of the other slides, but just always keep in mind that this presentation is as of today, which is April 17th, 2023. So you always want to make sure that you reference our website. Our website is going to be the most up-to-date information. So definitely make sure to always visit the links that are provided within this, so that you know that you have the most latest up-to-date information. Okay, so we do have a couple more questions that we have for you, Nino. So, what career and learning opportunities are available to graduates?
Yeah, so as I said, we have been pretty spectacularly successful at placing our graduates at in all kinds of different career paths. Nowadays, everybody wants to do something with AI and machine learning, but no, those are not the only jobs that exist out there. Many people want to work in computer security, for example, or cybersecurity. Many people want to be software engineers, although today, as a software engineer, you end up working with AI, machine learning algorithms, deep learning libraries, neural networks, and so on. So it all kind of bleeds into every field bleeds into one another. Typically, our top employer has been Google recently. Also, many of our people have gone, many of our students have gone to Snap. There is a large cohort of traditional companies that belong to what has been called the aerospace industry in Southern California, in the LA area. These are companies like Raytheon and Aerospace and Boeing and Northrop Grumman and so on. But over the last 20 years, give or take, there has been an equally vibrant cohort of commercial IT kinds of companies like Google and Snap and Yahoo and Facebook and so forth that have opened in the area that nowadays is referred to as Silicon Beach. And many of those companies will employ our students just as soon as they graduate or even before they get their degrees. So as I already mentioned, this is a trend that has gone on for quite a few years. And despite the fact that the job market has temporarily softened a touch, I think it's just come back to a more normal stage because it was really out of control. It was bubbling up, basically. There was no way that people were going to be able to sustain the level of hiring. These companies were going to be able to sustain the level of hiring that was going on in the, let's say, early 2022 timeframe, because they were just trying to outrun each other without necessarily, it seems like there wasn't a large strategic plan behind it. So nowadays, it's actually the job market is pretty solid. I can also tell by the internship opportunities that our students have, and those are quite kind of representative of where our students have historically gone to get jobs. So I assume, I think it's a pretty educated guess, that a solid hiring record for our graduates is going to continue into the future. If we go to the next slide, the other thing that many of our students end up getting involved in, both our undergrads and our master students, is the ACM programming contest, sometimes referred to as the Coding Olympics. And historically, the teams from USC have done incredibly well. They've placed at the top or toward the top worldwide, in fact, and very often have significantly outperformed our competitors from the Southern California basin, my own alma mater, UC Irvine, but also UCLA, Caltech. So these places that are considered top producers of computer science talent in the world, we've done better than they have in a number of the recent years. And then other things that will allow you to develop connections with potential employers. The CS Department Industry Affiliate Program has a number of companies that are uh, participating in the life and the activities of the department. And then, of course, there are all kinds of career fairs and things like that that you can hear about from other people. But you will be exposed to a lot of different people working in a lot of different lines of the current IT industry, and you will have all kinds of options after your degrees are complete.
Great. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Okay, and I'm just gonna follow up on this last question here. So I've decided to pursue, hopefully you're interested in pursuing a master's degree in computer science. And so any tips on getting started? So, first and foremost, you'll always want to make sure that you confirm the application deadlines before you get started, just so you know how much time you have. So for fall 2023, which starts in August, we have actually extended the application deadline for those who are planning to pursue their program as online Janet Viterbi students. And that's going to be May 31st. So for those that are interested in pursuing their program on campus, or anyone that will require visa sponsorship, so an F1 student visa or an I-20, just note that the next opportunity for you is actually going to be spring 2024. So that would start in January of next year, and the deadline to submit all required materials is going to be September 15th of 2023. And if you see the asterisk there, for those of you that are planning to pursue your program as online Janet Viterbi students, if you require an application extension, always feel free to reach out to my colleague Marilyn Lau and me, Erin Tanaka, at janetViterbi.usc.edu if you have any, requests for that. And more often than not, we're able to work with you as much as possible with the deadlines. So in terms of the application, you'll next want to make sure that you have all the application materials ready to go. So you'll want to make sure that you look at the specific program page or pages of the programs that you're planning to apply for. There's several tabs on each of the program pages, including application information, which will have information about the undergraduate computer or your eligibility. And so, all of the computer science master's degree programs, with the exception of the computer science scientists and engineers, typically do require an undergraduate degree in computer science, but you'll definitely also want to make sure that you take a look at the application requirement materials, including everything from your transcripts to letters of recommendation, which for computer science, unfortunately, the programs actually are considered those optional. So essentially, if you have the people who would be great at recommending you and want to submit a letter of recommendation, that's something that you can do if needed. All right, so to get started, hopefully you're interested in getting started. For those of you that are planning to be on-campus students or looking to pursue your program on campus, you are welcome to visit USC's campus. Same thing for those that are planning to pursue their program online via Neno Viterbi. Anyone is welcome to come and visit USC's campus. It's beautiful. There's lots of things to see. But if you can't make it to campus, there's also virtual tours that you can take. And then, hopefully start your application as soon as possible. If you're planning to pursue a program on campus, spring 2024, that application is actually already open. You can see for the large majority of the programs that's open too. And then for those that are planning to pursue their program online via Janet Viterbi, you also should go ahead and get started with your application, whether for fall 2023 or for spring 2024. And then if you're interested in getting started as early as summer 2023, again, we encourage you to complete the Janet Viterbi profile and to take courses as a limited status student. All right, so now we have officially gone to the Q&A portion of the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for those of you online to ask questions. So any questions you have, please don't be shy. Use the Q&A panel and we will answer those questions. I did see one that came into the chat earlier, so thank you so much. And I know Marilyn responded, but I just wanted to touch upon it as well. It was asking about if there are department-specific scholarships for the Master of Science and Computer Science programs. So and specifically for those that are planning to pursue their program via Gen Viterbi. So we do have a specific Neno Viterbi scholarship. It's not limited to just computer science students, but we definitely have taken into consideration a good amount of our students in need of scholarships are computer science. So we actually do have a number allotted specifically for Neno Viterbi computer science students. So there's a number of scholarship units that we do grant and award to those that are eligible. So for Neno Viterbi, these are scholarships that are available for those students that are planning to pursue their program online via Neno Viterbi, a master's degree program, and that are not fully funded by their employers or receive no funding at all. As a newly admitted student, or as long as you have an application on file, you would need to have an undergraduate cumulative GPA of a 3.0 GPA or above, and you can reapply for that scholarship each academic year, and you can potentially receive it each academic year too. Now, for those that are interested in pursuing your program on campus, just note that for on-campus scholarships, when you apply by the application deadline, so for example September 15th, you would be eligible to be considered for scholarships through that process. So there are a number of scholarships as well. So just think of that with on-campus students, you can be considered for scholarships through when you apply for formal admission. For Neno Viterbi students, the Neno Viterbi scholarship is a separate application. So that is something that you would need to apply separately for. Good thing about that though is that there's more time. You actually have until June 26th, for example, for the fall 2023 scholarship for that as well. And I'll be sure to include the link to master scholarships in the follow-up email as well. We didn't put it in this presentation just because there's a lot of content, but rest assured there are definitely scholarships available and out there. Great. So let's see. I see another question here. Can you mention any game development companies that the majority of the students who follow MS in game development get into? So, Nina, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that there is, let me just preface my answer by saying I haven't looked at the latest statistics, but based on what I've seen, there are no game companies, there's no single game company that majority of our students go into. But as you might imagine, companies like Activision, Blizzard, EA, so kind of the big players, those are the ones that end up snapping up many of our students. And if you'd like me to dig up more specific statistics, I can try to do that, but I think they also vary from year to year. Game companies are one segment of the industry, a very important and vibrant segment, but they're just one outlet for our graduates. So again, the big players that you are probably well aware of, those would be the ones where our students end up going as well. Our students, and especially from the games program, are heavily sought after because the games program is, as I already mentioned, has been the leading program, especially the undergraduate one, worldwide for quite a number of years at this point.
Great. Thank you for that. Another question we get often is, is it possible to do research, directed research as a master's student in computer science?
The short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is I'll give you an anti-pattern, which is what not to do, and that is send a mass email to a bunch of people saying, "Hey, I know Python and I've taken whatever machine learning, so can I do some research with you?" The best way to approach a faculty member is to take a class with them. Another good way is to read their specific research papers and inform yourself about what it is that they're working on. Yet another way that works actually quite well is to not even talk to the faculty member, find a PhD student who is working in their lab and approach the PhD student. Because the student is very often going to be willing to take somebody who can give him some help. And that way you are convincing the faculty member that you're needed for their project by convincing their PhD student, which is, those are typically the people who are actually uh, kind of in the proverbial trenches doing the actual work. So the one thing that you should not do is in the weeks approaching your entrance or entry into the master's program, you shouldn't send the email to 91 email addresses. So every faculty member in the CS department saying, "Hey, I'm super smart. Would you take me on?" Simply because that's not how research works. You have to, for better or for worse, you have to prove your potential value to the faculty member because it does take time to ramp up, and that's a period during which the project is actually going to slow down. Once you become productive, that's where you can make a big push and help the project. But up to that point, the project is going to take a hit because training you in the appropriate technologies and the background theoretical foundations and whatnot, all of that is going to take time. So you want to make it clear to the faculty member that that time is going to be minimized and that the benefits that they'll incur after you've gotten up to speed will significantly outstrip any penalty that they pay in the short term.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful information. Thanks so much for that. And then I think the last kind of related question, but not completely related, but we get a lot of questions about, is a master's thesis possible and or required?
It is possible. It is not required. Not very many students avail themselves of that option, in part because it does take longer to complete. So for you to legitimately conduct the research and write up a master's thesis and defend it, there are exceptions. Of course, there are always exceptions, but on average, it does take longer than just taking the required coursework and getting your master's that way. So yes, it is absolutely possible. You should know why you want to do a thesis. So I've had a student who had to do a thesis because their employer from Japan required it.
Mhm.
So that student didn't have an option. But I've also had students who have approached me because they felt it would be easier than taking a couple classes because you can get research credit for doing the thesis, right?
Yeah.
But the amount of work that goes into a thesis is it's quite heavy in terms of the workload. It's not negligible by any stretch. It's incredibly rewarding, but you should have a clear plan and you need to find an advisor, so somebody who is going to be willing to supervise your research. So all those factors should be taken into account. As I said, every case is different. A big majority of our students choose not to do the thesis. Some of them choose to do the thesis, and they do really well in the end.
Great. Awesome. So, we come about up to the end of our time here. But I just want to say, for those of you that have other questions, down the line, definitely feel free to reach out to us. For those of you that are interested in pursuing your program as on-campus students, Viterbi.graduate admission at usc.edu goes to the on-campus team that can help assist with the application process, any questions that you have. And then if you're interested in pursuing a program online via Viterbi, dennetviterbi.usc.edu goes to my colleague Marilyn Lau and me, Erin Tanaka. So we are happy to assist you throughout the process and direct your questions and answer all those questions you have. If you also would like to speak on the phone, or if it's easier to speak on the phone, feel free to give us a call at that number and ask for either Marilyn or me. And we're happy to chat with you over the phone. But thank you so much, Nino, for your time out of your busy schedule. It's been very, very insightful and helpful. I'm sure everyone has felt the same way. And for those of you that joined us during the live session, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Have a great rest of your day and a great week. And as we say at USC, fight on. Hey,
Right
everyone,
on.
fight
Thank you,
on.
everybody.
Take
Bye.
care.